So on this video, I'll be talking about process costing. So in the past videos, already have a brief overview of what process costing is, especially when we differentiated it with job order costing. So again, process costing, or as a recall, process costing refers to the product costing procedures whereby products are assigned costs by departments or process. Thus, cost accumulation and unit cost computation are also determined by departments or by process. Therefore, as goods are completed in one department and transferred to the succeeding department, their assigned costs go with the physical transfer until their completion and transfer to finished goods stockroom. So the emphasis is on the production for given periods, per se a week or a month, instead of by orders or by lot. So unlike katong sa imuhang job order costing. So again, process costing, the cost accumulation is done per department. So, mo na ang i-highlight. So, in this video, these are the following objectives. Describe the basic characteristics and cost flows associated with process costing. Define the equivalent units and explain their role in process costing. Also explain the difference between the weighted and the FIFO method of accounting for process cost. Prepare departmental production report using the weighted average method. Explain how process costing is affected by non-uniform application of manufacturing inputs and existence of multiple processing departments. And complete a departmental production report using the FIFO method. So we have here an example of the health blend nutritional supplements na product. So again, in process costing, we are dealing with departments or processes. So in here, you can see na the product undergoes 3 processes or 3 departments before it will become or be considered as a finished goods. So you have the picking, encapsulating, and the bottling. So of course, start with the picking until it will again become a finished goods. So in here is another kind or type of processing wherein it is a parallel processing. So you have process 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So for example, this is a hard disk drive for personal computers. So let's say process 1 and 2 is in relation to the hardware output itself, and then 3 and 4 is in relation to the inside of the hardwares, or the what do you call that, circuit board of the hardware. So then again, whatever the cost of each process, it will then be it will then all go or transfer to the assembly department. Then it will be considered as a finished good. So there is again the processes. Now, what is the flow of the manufacturing cost given the process costing? Or for instance, in our example, so again, diba, we have 3 departments: picking, encapsulating, and bottling. So in picking, of course, again, sa process costing, cost is accumulated per department. So, si picking department, na siya yung kagaligong materials, labor, and overhead. Same with encapsulating and bottling. So, for example, here in picking, of course, na mga direct materials ni mo. So, we have herbs, vitamins, and minerals. We also have your labor and your applied overhead. Now, these, kani siya, ang kaning cost ni mo is ma-transfer siya sa imuhang, or once it is done already sa imong picking department, is ma-transfer siya sa imuhang encapsulating department nga work in process. So, mo na nakadiri cost for transferred in from picking. So, whatever tong imuhang gikan diri, then i-add nimo ang na-incur nimo sa imuhang department. So, we have here the capsules, also the labor, and the overhead for encapsulating department. Then again, whatever is finished in the encapsulating department, that will be transferred to your bottling. So you have here the transferred in from encapsulating. Then aside from those costs from the transfer or transferred cost, You also have the cost incurred in the department itself. So you have the materials, so the bottles, and the labor, and the overhead. So again, ang cost nimo is ma-transfer siya from one department to another, or so from one work in process of one department to another work in process in another department. So we have here the journal entries. So for instance, Health Blend decides to produce 2,000 bottles of multivitamins. Now, these are the costs incurred by the picking department. So we have here 17, 50, and 450 for a total of 2,200. Now, once gani, it is transferred from picking to encapsulating. So you can see here, ang work in process sa imuhang picking is imuha siyang gi-credit and then gi-debit nimo ang sa imuhang work in process sa encapsulating. Now, if imuha po siyang ibalhin to bottling, as you can see, ang work in process nimo sa encapsulating is imo na siyang gi-credit and then debit na ang sa bottling. Now, take note of the cost. Tanawa ang cost. Ang cost niya is katong sa imuhang tutu, diba kani, ang katong gikan nimo sa picking, transferred sa picking plus the cost of the katong na-incur nimo sa encapsulating. So, mao nang 3,760. So, mo na ang cost nga mga ibalin sa imuhang bottling. Now, sa bottling pod, i-add gyapon to nimo ang katong cost nga gikan sa imuhang encapsulating plus the cost incurred in that department. So mo nang na-arrive kag 5,460, which is mo i-considered as your finished goods. So that the cost is transferred to the finished goods warehouse. So mo na siya imuhang, or mo na ang concept sa imuhang process costing. Now, a production report provides information about the physical units processed in a department and the manufacturing cost. So, meaning sa production report, makita nimo ang information about sa physical, so katong physical about sa units, and also sa cost nga na-incur. So, muna ang dapat na sa imong production report. So, na ay physical aspect o katong sa mga units, and then na ay cost aspect. So, ari sa taon na sa ato ang units. So, in process costing, we have what we call equivalent units of production. So, EUP are the complete units that could have been produced given the total amount of manufacturing effort expended for the period under consideration. So, muna siya imong EUP, equivalent units of production. So, in short, ang imuhang EUP is mo na siya imong actual units multiplied by the percentage of work done. Mura siya ganyan ana. So, kung pila ganito imong nabuhat ana na time, mo na siya imong EUP. So, masabtan siya sa next slide. So, for example, here, you have a Department A with no beginning work in process. You have units completed of 1,000 units, and then you have units in ending work in process, which is 25% complete na 600 units. And then your total manufacturing cost is 11,500. Now, how do you compute the EUP? So, inani ni ang concept sa imuhang EUP. If the units are completed, so for instance, kani 100 units are completed, so imuhang equivalent unit of production or imong EUP is 100 units pod. Kay kung na-complete man siya 100 units. Now, for example, na kay 200 units and then 50% completed lang siya. So, meaning, di ba kani siya, isa ka box is 1 unit, 100 unit. So, duha man siya. Pero, 50% completed man daw siya. So, more ang i-assumption nimo nga naka-complete siya o out of the 200 units, 50% ang nahuman na niya. So, maskin kung tan-awon nimo diri, di ba nga, si tawag na, technically, ang product is, buta na to, wala pagid siya mahuman kay 50% completed man siya. Pero unsa naman imong nabuhat ana nga period, kung i-add din nimo siyang duha, is mo equal gyapon siya og balig 100 units. So, inana siya. Ang work na imong nabuhat na ba is worth 100 units na siya. So, kagets ra or if nakuan ra ba. So again, ang EUP is more siya ang katong imong actual units i-multiply ra nimo by your percentage of work done. So kani 200 units multiplied by 50%, so mo nang 100 units. Now if ato ta sa to example, 1,000 units completed, and then so kato 1,000 units na complete siya. So we have 1,000 to ihang EUP. Now we have the katong ending na 600 units nga 25% complete ra. So isa po kani mura na siya. Then 25%, so mahugra nga ang nahuman na nimo nga units is 150 units. Murag inana. Kakuha ra ba? So kung i-add na ninyo siya, mo na siya imong total nga EUP or equivalent units of production. So ana siya. Again, i-reiterate lang nako nga nung ning 150 unsa ang kanang concept. So the concept is if dili pa ni siya dunganon og process tanan, diba? Correct. If ever di pa ni siya dungan og process tanan, like for example, ang time nga gi-allocate nimo into working all 600 units at the same time, okay, process costing man sa kasagaran nila kay naka-batch, diba? Batch processing. So, kung dili pa na siya dunganon og process tanan, like ang time, materials, and overhead ga imong gi-allocate into creating each ani nga mga boxes, if imo na siyang i-allocate into, like, if ang imuhang process bitaw kay magbuhat sa kag isa ka box before ka mo proceed og next box, so if in ana ang imuhang process daw maka-complete na kag 150 ka buok, so mapuno na ning isa ka box anhi plus katunga pa jud ana, mo na ang total na time, for example for the month. So for the month, mao na imuhang total nga mabuhat given sa katong time, given sa labor ug sa time na naani mo, diba? So inana siya kagets ra or nakuha ra ba ang concept, pero basta more na siya ang thought. However, in computation is ana ra siya the actual units multiplied by the work percentage of work done. So once nakuha na nimo imong EUP, maka-prepare na dayon ka sa imong production report. Now, again, sa production report, there should be a physical units flow analysis. There should be a calculation of equivalent units. There should be the computation of the unit cost. There should be the valuation of inventories, meaning makita nimo ang amount of goods transferred out and ending work in process, and the cost reconciliation. So, before ta mo proceed sa weighted, ari sa ata sa atong EUP, no? Balik ta sa atong EUP na concept. So, sa EUP is there are two applications or elements kung saan yung pagkuan sa imong EUP. Kaya na naman siya. Ang EUP nimo is mo na siya imuhang gamiton to get your unit cost. So again, ang EUP ang imuhang gamiton to get your unit cost. Now, anita sa tong first example, or kata sa example sa slide, you have here, if uniform application siya, if uniform application siya, ang imuhang total na, what do you call this? Your EUP is inanion siya pag compute if under uniform or even application. So, again, under uniform or even application, it is assumed that materials, labor, and overhead are applied evenly and proportionately from the start of the process to the end of the process. So with that, or such being the case, only one equivalent unit of production is computed, and this equivalent production is applicable to all cost element. So again, parihara tanan ang imuhang cost, pariharag EUP ang imuhang materials, labor, ug ang imuhang overhead. So, mana diri isahon na to pag-compute na to ang EUP, no? So, since wala man tayo beginning work in process, so we only have here the completed and the work in process end. So, nakuha naman yun na to ganiha. So, we have an EUP of 1,150. And then, di ba, we have a manufacturing cost ato of 11,500. So, ang ato ang unit cost, ani na example, is 10. So, ana siya? 10 ato ang unit cost. So, muna siya ng unit cost. Now, arita sa uneven application. Sa uneven application, ismailhan nimo or makita nimo nga gibuwag or in uneven application is lahi na ang EUP sa imuhang material, labor, and overhead because in actual, dili man jud ka or in practice or in actual is rare kaayo na makakita kag uniform ang application no. Usually is even gid na ang imuhang application. So when we say even application, again lahi-lahi ang lahi-lahi ang costing sa imuhang materials, labor, and overhead. Siguro ang overhead is sort of uniformly applied, uniform siya katungod applied overhead man ang ato ang igamiton. But usually ari jud na siya mo matter sa imuhang materials, di ba? Kay ang materials man na ang mo vary kung kanus ka mag-add aning material and so on and so forth. So in here, if you look at the nasa Excel, I will be showing you 3 cases. So, take note lang ha, itong material is 12,750, labor of 7,650, and overhead of 510. So, you have here your first case. All materials are added at the start of the process. So, take note, start of the process that we add materials. And conversion costs are applied uniformly throughout the process. So, again, kung may yung applied uniformly, kato na siyang sa imuhang even application or katong uniform application. No? So, meaning, musunod siya sa imuhang, what do you call this? Musunod siya sa imuhang percentage of work done or work done. So, again, all materials are added at the start of the process. So, as you can see here, diba nato tong units gyapon nga 1,600. Now, the difference is anhi na sa work done. Since it is stated that materials are added at the start of the process, so meaning, even if work in process ends siya, since basta masugdan nimo ang usa ka material ay usa ka product, is mahatag naman ay ma-add naman hiya tanang materials. So meaning, imong assumption ana, maskin work in process end na siya, niya tanan ang 100% of the materials needed. So, mo nang 100% ni dire. Dili ang katong completion nga 25%. So, ang ato din is 100% na kay tanang materials gibutang naman nimo pag start pa lang sa process daan. So, mo nang 100 na din ha. So, for materials, that is why the EUP is at 1,600. Well, for conversions is applied uniformly man siya, so katutang sa ato ang 1,150. So, kung mag-compute ka sa imuhang cost, diba? Kung mag-compute ka sa imuhang unit cost, ang imuhang materials, ang iyahang EUP is 1,600. So, meaning iyahang unit cost or cost o unit cost sa imuhang material is 7.97. So, that is 12,750 divided by the EUP. So, kana siya. So, for labor, again, ang iyang gigamit is katong 1,150. Diba, conversion cost nimo is labor and overhead man. So, you have a total unit cost of 1906. So, ana na siya pag-compute sa imuhang unit cost. Now, let's go to the second case. Second case is that materials are added at the end of the process. So, meaning, again, at the end na siya. So, what's yung difference niya sa katong case 1? Sa case 1 is, beginning or start of the process. Kani is at the end. So, if you can see here, sa conversion is wala ra siya changes, no? As to the materials, as you can see, 0 ang iyahang materials. Kaya again, 25% naman na complete ang atoang work in process. So, meaning, wala pa siya maabot sa part nga gi-applyan na to siya og materials. Muna ang materials din na is 0. So, ang EUP sa materials nimo is only at 1,000. So, with that, you have same process gyapon sa pagkuha sa unit cost. So, you have a total unit cost of 2,384. Now, let's go to, this is case 3. Let's go to case 3. Sa case 3, kani is medyo mas daghan na siya. Kay atong materials is added in certain levels na. So, here, 40% of the materials are added at the start of the process. So, basta masugdan nimo na siya, i-add diretso ang 40% of the materials. 30% when the process is 50% complete. So, at 50% na mark, after ana is, i-add na to ang additional nga 30% sa materials. And then the balance, so the balance is, of course, 30%, is when the process is 3/4 complete. So, kung 75% na daw siya complete, diha nimo i-add ang materials. Now, in here, since our work in process ending is 25% nga complete, unsa pa lang ang materials na imong na-add. So, di ba, ang materials na imong na-add pa lang is at, or 40% of the materials pa lang ang imuhang na-add, kay 25% complete pa man siya. But, what if your work is already 60% complete? For example, your work in process end is already 60% complete. So, since 60% complete naman imuhang work in process end, pila na ka percentage of materials ang na-add ana? So, of course, naada na siya 40 and naada na pud siya og 30. Kaya naman, naabot naman siya sa imuhang or nalapas na gani siya sa imuhang 50% na mark. So, mo na nga ang percentage of work done diri sa imong materials should be 70. So, ana na siya. So, careful lang ka sa imuhang materials. Kay mo man nakasagaran gyud nga naay daghang changes. So, with that, you have a total unit cost of 21.37. Okay, so now let's move on to the two methods of computing, or two methods in process costing. So we have the FIFO and the weighted. So let's start with the weighted. So we have here an example. Let's move to this. Okay. So let's again, for weighted average method, this method does not follow any assumed flow of cost. So rather, it assumes that similar product completed or processed during the same period absorb the same amount of material, labor, and factory overhead. So in other words, they acquire the same unit cost. So in average method, EUP is equal to all the units finished in that particular period plus the EUP of the month. So mas understand na better diri sa atong example. So we have here a production of beginning units work in process. Ano siya, July 1, which is 75% complete of 20,000 units. Now, for that month, the units completed and transferred out is 50,000. The units in process is 25% completed is 10,000. So, we have also the following costs. Work in process, 10,125, and then cost added for the month is 10,125. So, again, sa weighted, inikuha nimo sa AUP, ang imorang i-take into consideration are those units completed and transferred and the ending. So, if you can see here, even though, di ba, nag-state there nga na ay 20 units na beginning, dili na siya mo matter because it is assumed na apil na siya aning sa imuhang, or it should assume, apil na gid siya ana sa imuhang completed and transferred out. Diba? So, kaning 50,000 included na din ha ang imuhang 20,000, of course. So, kana siya is again, ang work done is 100%. So, mani akong gimension ganiha nga, in weighted average, the products completed or processed during the same period absorb the same amount of material, labor, and factory overhead. So, mo nang diri, regardless kung gikan pa na siya sa beginning or started and completed in the month, basta na completed and transferred out na siya, automatic na 100% na iya ha. So, that is why iyahang EUP is at 50. Then, for the work in process end is small na siya ang katong follow na siya sa katong imuhang percentage of completion work. So, you have an EUP of 52,500. So, ani na siya. So, nanakay part sa imuhang, kani siya nga part is sa imuhang, what you call that? Your units, physical flow of units. Now, for your cost, ang mahitabo sa weighted average is ang cost nimo sa beginning ug ang cost nimo sa for the month is ibutang na siya og isa ka buok ga bucket. So, mo na siya ang total manufacturing cost. Meaning, dili na ka necessary nga lahi ang computation nimo for the work in process beginning ug sa imong cost for the month. So, mo na, as you can see here, gi-adder na nimo ang imong total cost. Ano siya total? So, you have a total of 13,650. So, inikuha nimo sa imong unit cost. Manin siya itong makita ganihan, no? Ikuha nimo sa imong unit cost is, ang kaning imong EUP, more na siya ang imong i-divide sa imong cost, which is your total cost nga 13,650. So, that is your weighted average. So, again, diri is, gipakita lang na siya clearly, or gishow ra into figures. So, again, you have your beginning work in process nga 20. Then, units started and completed, 30. Nga nang 30 naman lang. Completed ba ini siya ang giingon ra? Completed and transferred out. So, of course, sa completed, apil na gid na din ha ang katong mga gikan sa imuhang beginning work in process. So, kung imo nang i-add ang duha is equal na siya sa katong completed and transferred. So, for the cost, again, as I mentioned, mo na siya kung giingon ganiha. Now, there na to mo come in na magbuhat na ta sa ato ang what do you call this? Product report. Sa ato ang product report. So, or production report. So, again, what is important is ma-account nimo ang imong physical flow or the units and your cost analysis. So, ani ra jud siya. Dapat na ay makita na nimo ang to account for, so units to account for. So, in this case, you have your beginning work in process na 20,000 and then units started during the period na 40,000. So, diin kaning 40,000, katuning sa imuhang, diri, diba? 30 plus 10,000 units man to sa imuhang work ending. So, that is why the units you started is 40. So, your total units for this month is 60,000. Now, asa man units accounted for. So, unsa man ang pag-divide sa 60,000. So, ang pag-divide sa 60,000 is ang units completed and transferred out. So, meaning katong started and completed, mauning 30. Ang katong makita nimo sa beginning work in process kay 20. So, meaning 50 ang katong units completed and transferred out. Now, your ending is katong 10, meaning ang na-account nimo is 60. So, it should be nga equal jud siya per me. Dapat ang units to account for should be equal to your units accounted for. So, as you can see here, in the units accounted for na part, is ma-identify nimo kung pila ang units nga start nimo in that period and na-complete nimo, o pila ang units nga gikan sa imuhang beginning work in process, mao na siya ang nag-comprise sa imuhang completed and transferred out. Then, ang remaining is of course your ending work in process. So, mao na siya sa cost sa physical flow na side. So, kani, again, nakita niya po na sa katong imuhang EUP. Now, computation of unit cost, which I already mentioned. Then, valuation of inventories. So, in here, is pila man to ang cost sa katong imuhang na-complete o the-transfer out. Kasi, di ba, maka-remember mo, katong sa pinang-first part yun, di ba, ang cost nimo from one department is what transfer siya to another department. So, dapat makadetermine ka kung pila ang cost sa kato imuhang goods na gi-transfer. Now, in doing so, ani mong buhaton? Kato imuhang, of course, imuhang unit cost, katong 26. So, in this case, since 50 units man ang imuhang completed and transferred, so, you have a 13,000 nga for the cost of goods transferred. And then your ending inventory has a cost of 650. Now, next. Oops. Is the cost reconciliation. So, again, ang cost pod is na pod siya accounted for, cost accounted for, o cost to account for. Katong cost to account for is katong imuhang work in process o cost for the month. Naman imo cost to account for. Ang cost accounted for is kanina sa imuhang kaninga part. Asa ang sa completed, asa ang sa work in process end. So, again, the manufacturing costs to account for are also 13,650. So, mo na siya ni equal. So, again, pareha sa imuhang units is dapat mo equal sa na siya ang sa imuhang cost ng part. So, kani, para mas formal, so, ani imuhang buhaton. Diba? As I mentioned, you have your units to account for, units accounted for, and then your EUP nga computation. So, pwede ra nga sa imuhang production report is ang makita ra sa imuhang production report kani siya. This is kani siya. Mo siya example sa imuhang quantity schedule. So, actual units. So, ano na siya? If makabantay mo kani nga part is pares na siya din na part. Diba? Ang kalahian lang is if imuhag yung specify, diba, naka-specify gyud ang units na to be units to account for. So, meaning 20 and 40. So, lahi na siya nga column, or no, lahi na siya na row or section, and then lahi po ang section nimo for units accounted for. Pero para mausaran ni ang imuhang EUP niya anhi para di na ka magbalik-balik og compute, pwede ra ani nimo og way, or mo refer lang niya mo sa katong book na PDF is na po format dito for the cost of production report. You can follow that one para mas easier siya, or you can follow this one as well if you like. Same nagyapon ang result nga ihang makuha. Dapat nagyapon kay area to again units to account for, units accounted for, and dapat makita gyapon ang imuhang EUP nga computation. So either methods or either formats is makita gyapon yung tulo ka vital sections. Now, next is sa cost information. Again, naa ang cost to account for. So, katong beginning work in process o katong incurred cost for the month. So, you have total cost to account for. Also, makita po diha ang imuhang computation sa imuhang unit cost or cost per equivalent unit. So, makitaan sa na. And then, it should also be shown ang imuhang costs accounted for. So, muna to siya ang katong cost sa goods transferred out o cost sa goods in work in process. So, that is it. Nasa gyud po ilahing format ani sa inyong book, katong PDF. So, kana pwede ra mo refer or pwede kanino format. Regardless, you would still arrive at the same amount. So, kanino format or katong naa sa book. So, muna siya ang sa imuhang weighted. So, kaning non-uniform application is more ni siya ganiha sa katong imuhang uneven. Nana siya concept. More jud ni siya. Give it like explain diri ah. Pero, yeah, this is the same. See? Sa, diri na lang is, diba, this is an example of production report. So, uneven is, makita mo, same gyapon to ang production, sa physical flow. Now, asa na ang nalahi sa pag-compute na sa imuhang EUP? Kaya awa, diba, gilahi na ang materials, lahi na ang conversion cost. So, sa imuhang production report is dapat makita gyapon ang separation between your materials and your conversion cost ng EUP. Same pod na when you go to your cost information. So, sa cost information, lahi pod na ang cost to account for sa imuhang materials ug sa imuhang conversion cost. So, na pod na total. So, again, since lahi man na siya, so dapat nakaseparate na siya. Kay of course, lahi man na siya unit cost. Lahi man ang unit cost sa materials ug sa conversion. So, dapat makita gyapon na sa imuhang production report ang iyang separation. So, kani is cost accounted for. So, kana siya. And cost to account for. Now, this in the multiple departments, what is different here is that na lang ka units transferred in during the month. Diba? So, ang units transferred in is mauna na siyang katong cost gikan sa lain nga department. So, mauna na siya ang imuhang i-add. So, meaning additional na siya sa imuhang units to account for. Kani, diba? Units to account for. Katong units nga gikan sa imuhang gikan sa lain nga department. So, nga gihatag nimo sa kanang month. So, maapil na siya din ha. Then, another thing is malahi na pod ang imuhang computation sa imuhang unit cost. Kaya diba naman tong katong cost nimo from your transferred nga units. So, naman to siya kaakibat nga cost. So, maapil na sa to siya sa imuhang computation niya. So, ana siya. Mura siya imuhang dapat bantayan. The rest is same na siya og process. More additional. So, there are more sample nga illustrations nga makita niya sa inyong PDF. So, let's move on to FIFO. So, sa FIFO, ang kalahian ani is again, as you can see, diba sa ato ang weighted is gisudra to siya og isa ka container, imuhang beginning o imuhang current. Now, sa FIFO is separate siya. Lahi ang cost ni beginning, lahi po ang cost ni current. So, si beginning is ang iyahang cost is of course dili siya ma-appeal. Dili siya nimo i-appeal sa computation sa imuhang unit cost because sa previous month man na siya. Previous month man siya na-incur ni mga cost. So, wala siya labot. So, if tanaw na to there is example, so, di ba we have units na 60,000 unit, no, not 60,000, but rather 20,000 units, then 75% work done na siya. So, since 75% completed naman siya, meaning, ang gibuhat na lang sa current period is ang kato na lang remaining na 25%. Mao na iyahang work done is only 25%. Kay human naman siya sa 75. 25 naman lang ang gibuhat niya for that current period. Ano siya kay current period man ni siya. So you have 5,000 and then katong started and completed. For the period, you have 30, so kana 100, and then the end nga 25. So you have a EUP nga 37,500. Now, as to the computation of the unit cost, again, lahi naman ang imuhang for the computation of your unit cost is ma-separate naman si what you call this, ma-separate na ang imuhang beginning o ang imuhang current. So, meaning, ang kaning 37,500 is para rabaya ni sa imuhang current. Diba? So, sa current na siya imong 37,500. So, ang pagkuha nimo sa unit cost na 0.37 is kanina sa imuhang 10,125. So, 14 ang cost nimo for the current period or cost nimo for the month. And then, sa pag-account na nimo niya, of course, ari na nimo siya ipang or ang kaning 0.27 mo ora imong ipang multiply ani sa imong EUP. So that is why you have these following na mga cost. And then i-add pag ito nimo ang katong work in process beginning. So ang cost accounted for is still equal 13,650. This is error in computation. Oops. Basta ka na siya. So, you have 13,650. So, if maghimo kag production report, so, again, same ra ang units accounted for, no? 20, 40, 60. Units to account for dito. Same ra ang units to account for. And then, ang units accounted for is, ari na, malahi na sa imuhang what you call this, your equivalent units na part. Kaysa equivalent units nimo, 5,000 naman lang ang imuhang beginning. Dili naman ka sa unlike sa weighted nga considered as 100% maning duha. Sa beginning in sa FIFO method is ang katong work done nimo for that certain period. Mora gyud ang imuhang may basis nimo in getting the EUP. So, in this case, mo ng 25% na nga to ang 20,000 na units for an EUP of 5,000. So, kana siya. And then, for the cost is again, na imong beginning o imong current cost. So, you have your cost computation. Again, ang pagkuha nimo sa imong cost per equivalent unit is ang muhang basis only is your current cost or incurred during the period. Now, for the allocation or for the cost accounted for, so you have here katong transferred out. So, 3,525 or from prior period. Then, from current period, so mo na siyang 1,350. Then, units started and completed, 810. And the goods in ending work in process of 675. So, still, it would equal to 13,650. So, that is the end of the process costing. And again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of illustrations also found in your PDF or attached in the PDF na copy sa book. So, you can refer to that kaya para mas ma-practice mo and mas mahanas mo on how to get the EUP and how to make a cost of production report. So, that is all.